Good Gabs, sponsored by Skillskin, a nonprofit organization empowering individuals with disabilities through employment. Good afternoon, everybody. We have the distinct pleasure of hosting Debra Raub, Executive Director of Communities and Schools here at Good Gab. Debra, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
How's your morning going?
Morning's good.
Nice. I know it's kind of crispy out there.
I mean, I'm not talking, the weather's not good. That's what I'm talking about.
Right?
It's Friday.
It is Friday.
It's Friday. I'm going to be done with work in a couple hours, I think.
That's awesome. I started my day this morning at the Satellite. I had breakfast at 7 a.m. So I met a friend who, Nathaniel Pryor, actually, he's Leadership Spokane. Yeah.
I need to call him anyway.
You do. He's just a great guy. So we were chatting it up and I learned something. So Friday, 7 a.m. is party night for a big group of people. It was a party. Everyone was drinking and there were shots. Yes.
At the Satellite?
Yes. And so me just having to be like hearing things. I'm like, okay, what's really happening? Because Nate's like, it's 7 a.m. What's going on? And they were all from an aerospace manufacturing company. They were the night shift.
Oh.
So this was their Friday night.
I see. Okay.
And I'm like, this is like a movie. Like, this is Steel Town, USA.
Yeah, well,
people coming off of the shift.
At first I was like, what group of people is this? And how do I need to get invited?
Right, exactly.
Like meets at 7 a.m. at the Satellite, starts drinking on a Friday morning.
So it was incredible. There's like 30 people in there. Like, by the time breakfast is done, we're just having coffee, trying to, solve the world's problems. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, dance party.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a great morning.
It is a great way to start
That's Spokane, right? There's just all sorts of stuff happening everywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
Indeed. Well, what's going on in your organization right now?
Ooh, so much change. So the current ED, well, how about this? I'm assuming the executive director position on January 1st or 2nd, however you want to see it.
That's coming up.
I know, it's crazy. So he's transitioning out. It's Chuck Teagarden. He's been there for, I don't know, since 2015, and really instrumental in getting the organization from a pretty unstable place to a very stable place. So that was the work that he did, and he's going to retire. He's going to be in the background until April, and then he calls it terminal vacation, which I really hate.
Dang, yeah,
isn't that nasty?
No, it just doesn't feel right.
I know it makes you. I know it's like exactly. Yeah. It's like this.
Come on, Chuck. Let's get another term.
Terminal. I'm going to be on terminal vacation. God, that sounds terminal.
No, smile.
I know. So that's happening in a couple of weeks, and so just getting all the getting up to speed on the things. I was the development director prior, so I was just in my lane of fundraising and networking and kind of getting the word out, because everywhere I went, I'd ask, do you know about communities and schools? And nobody knew about communities and schools. So it was a lot of work to be done, just grassroots, meeting with people and sharing the message about what we do, which I suppose I should tell you, is...
we're all ears.
Right? So we are, Communities and Schools is a national organization. It's a dropout prevention organization. Started in 1977 in New York. And it's spread across the nation. We're in over 20 states. There's hundreds of affiliates across the state. Each affiliate is responsible for its own fundraising. There's some oversight by national in that they give us a data system that we can all put our data into, which is things that we collect data on, are like grades, attendance, behavior incidents, what partners we're working with in the community, mentoring, that kind of stuff. So we collect data on everything. And they provide that system, and then we have to meet their accreditation standards. But otherwise, we don't pay them dues, and they're not really involved otherwise. So they're really,
So that's why I thought it was like a homegrown organization.
Right. Yeah, because it feels like that, right? A lot of affiliates get started in different ways, and in Spokane, we got started in 2007 because the graduation rate in Spokane County was so low. It was only like 66% of high school kids were graduating on time.
I remember that.
Yeah, right? It was pretty bad. That's like 1 out of 3 kids not graduating, and that wasn't that long ago. And so a bunch of business owners in the community came together to figure out how to solve this problem, because they found that they didn't have viable candidates to hire. And they invited communities and schools to come to Spokane or to start an affiliate. And so that's how the Spokane affiliate was formed. There's other affiliates in Washington that are formed from our Washington State governing body, Communities and Schools of Washington.
Okay.
You never know what it's like. Our umbrella company that provides, what they do for us is they talk to larger foundations that don't want to talk to individual small affiliates. They want to support on a larger scale. So they'll talk to those foundations like Balmer,
Yep.
big companies or big foundations. And they kind of support us by, they developed a website that we could all utilize the template. So things like that. So we really are kind of our own organization. Every affiliate can kind of look very different depending on the needs of the community, right? Communities and schools. So let's see, it started in 2008, and we've grown from 4 schools. We're in 22 now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're in Cheney.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're in Cheney School District, Medical Lake School District, SPS, and Central Valley School District. And what we do is we hire a site coordinator, and we place them in that school, so they work in the school, and they help identify students that are at risk of academic failure, and among other things. I mean, that's the primary thing, but kids that just need support. Maybe a kid that is alone a lot,
Right.
doesn't have friends, and just kind of watching out for them, and trying to provide opportunities for them to engage with other students. They work with the school to identify a school-wide goal. So attendance is down right now. Attendance is really bad because, during the pandemic, kids didn't have to go to school.
Right.
They got into that habit of not going to school. So now they don't think it's that important to go to school.
Dang. That's
Right?
a challenge.
Seriously.
Like, how are we going to overcome that as a society?
Right. So school isn't valued right now. And so our site coordinators work to bring that whole attendance goal, to meet that attendance goal of the school. So they provide incentives. It's way easier in elementary school, right? Because you
Sure.
can offer trinkets and, activities and things
Yes.
like that to get kids excited to come to school. It's a little bit harder in middle school and high school. You have to, maybe have some really intriguing programming. So that's another thing we do is we create programs that we know the kids will be interested in and they want to participate in. Sometimes being involved in that requires you to have your attendance up or not to be failing your classes. So we are very strategic in a school and working with the school to identify the weaknesses and how we can support the in overcoming some of those challenges.
Yeah, and identifying, at-risk youth.
Right.
I was one of those people. I didn't know communities and schools. Sorry. But I did learn about maybe 4 years ago, Home Depot brought me to one of your fundraisers out at Northern Quest. And
Yeah.
I was impacted. I was like, wow, this is the kind of organization that I want to be, involved with and understand. And what impacted me was you had some folks come and speak about their experiences in the program and some of the kids, but also those folks who are at the school. And what I heard is like they're in relationship with these kids. They know their story, and sometimes pretty intimately know their stories. And I have to imagine just knowing someone cares, just one person, that's just gotta help a bit. And that's what impacted me. I was like, I love this work.
Yep. Yeah. So they develop the relationships with those students. And you're right. They get to know what's going on in that kid's life, what's going on with the family. Does the family need support? And reaching out. We've got some really dynamic site coordinators that work in schools, and all of our site coordinators are connected. So if we have a student at Bemis who has older siblings that go to Shaw and or Rogers High School, we've got site coordinators at each of those schools, so we can work with those site coordinators and say, hey, this family needs X, Y, and Z. This is what's going on. And so everybody's in the loop.
Incredible, like a continuum.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
And that's what we want to create is a continuum of support. So we target schools that our kids are in, and then we want to know what's the middle school they're going to go to, what's the high school they're going to go to, and we need site coordinators along the way. So once you have that support, you typically need to continue. You typically need that support throughout. It's not, oh, I'm good now,
Right.
And there's some kids like that for sure. But for the majority, especially in Northeast Spokane, that's an area that has a high level of low-income families and people that are struggling with poverty and food insecurity and homelessness and things like that. And so that's an area that we focus on, and we want to make sure that the students and families are constantly receiving support. We've got kids right now who are, I'm not going to name the school, but it's in Northeast Spokane, that the whole family's living out of a sedan, and they park near the school, and they sleep. I asked the psych coordinator, so are they sleeping sitting up in the back seat? Yes. And so they go to the school to shower and to get fresh clothes and things like that, or wash clothes. But yeah, there's families that are living in cars right around the schools. I mean, I know that we know this, but it's different when you actually hear about it
and see it
and you
for
see
yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Well, what a commitment to their children to actually keep them in school.
Right. Well, that's a stable place, right? So they can go to school, they can get a shower, they can wash their clothes, they can get meals, they can get food and snacks. It's a warm place. So even if they're not necessarily going to class and paying attention, it's a place where they can get all these resources. I mean, it's hard to pay attention in class when you're dealing with homelessness and
or hungry.
Right. Or hungry. So
or not wanting to go home because whatever situation's
right, because
happening.
what's going on at home. We've got kids that are living in all those situations. And those are the kids that we provide a lot of support to. And it's a heavy burden on our site coordinators mentally. And so we got we wrote several grants, and they all got funded. So this is really speaking.
All right, congratulations!
I know, I was so surprised. I'm like, oh my god! Every time one came in, I was just impressed. But it's because mental health is on the rise. I mean, it's we've known this, right? The United States doesn't take care of our doesn't look at mental health the same way other countries do, and so our people that struggle with mental health are usually neglected and not receiving proper services and things like that. And it's taboo still. Anyway.
Let's change that.
Right? But COVID really kind of brought that to the forefront, especially kids in isolation for so long and not able to have those social interactions, or being in households that just were not healthy for them to be in 24 hours a day. So we were able to get a mental health program manager, and she has her MSW. So we had our own professional therapist.
Yeah, in-house.
Right. Because there's so few resources in Spokane for people to go to. And we don't provide mental health services, but we have her as an expert to inform our site coordinators how they can run more effective programming that provides social and emotional support for our students that are still coming out of that, still recovering from the pandemic.
Good for you and your organization to take that next step.
Yeah, it was super exciting.
Yeah, I imagine that site coordinator, they're doing their best, right?
Right.
But now they have someone they can pick up, a professional, pick up the phone, call.
Right.
I imagine that's going to lead to less burnout too.
Exactly. So it was a two-prong approach with her. It was one, to support our site coordinators' mental health, because they're getting all this vicarious trauma from listening to these student stories. And when you're talking about elementary school kids that are now are depressed and experiencing anxiety. I mean, that wasn't really heard of that much before. Elementary school kids talking about suicide and depression is not something that we really heard that much about. But now it's pretty normal to hear about it.
Dang.
So that's a heavy weight to carry. So she provides mental health support for our site coordinators, as well as informing them on how to provide better social emotion support. And she for site coordinators that don't or are uncomfortable creating programs because they just don't feel they have the skill set, she can come in and help them set up programming for students that meets their needs, and kind of walk alongside them and help them get those things going, because that's one of the criteria for the site coordinators, is to create programs, after school programs, before school, during school, like lunch groups, things like that. But just a space that actually provides some sort of support, whether it's social emotion support, academic support, stuff like that. So, and then she also, we knew that so in order to have interns that are getting their Masters of Social Work, we had to have someone with a Master's of Social Work on staff. So she could also help us expand.
You can partner with the higher education programs around town.
Right. So now we have Master's of Social Work interns working in all of our schools. So it really helps expand our capacity to support more students.
Yeah, and be more sustainable and,
Right.
and effective.
Right. So
Well, how do you support that? You talked about grants
Right.
coming in. Like, how is this funded? It's pretty amazing to go from 4 schools to 20.
yeah, to 22.
22?
Yeah, 22. And so a lot of it is grant funded. So we have a 21st Century grant that supports 7 sites. And the other sites, the schools actually pay for the program.
That's a commitment from the school.
Right.
Good for them.
Yeah, so they pay for the program, and those that can't pay the full amount, then we fundraise to help cover the cost. And also we're working with Innovia and their Northwest Launch program to provide more sites around the community to keep those kids graduating on time, but also to make sure that they have opportunities for post-high school education, whether it's trade school, community college, or 4-year college. So we're working with them and partnering to expand our program to more schools too. So
Well, you've done really well in your role.
Thank
and
you.
I can see, that passion, and you're going to be a great leader of your organization.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah, I
It is
bet.
fun.
How did you get to this organization? Have you been in Spokane long?
No,
Is this home?
No, yes and no. I grew up in Seattle. I went to WSU. I ended up in Spokane in 2000. So I've been here for 22 years. It's a long time.
Oh, yeah, that's home.
I know, right? It took me a long time to say that. I still have a hard time saying that, but that's okay. I love Spokane, everybody. I still love Spokane. But I am still a Seattleite. Seattle's my favorite city. Anyway, I know there's a lot of haters out there.
True.
Seriously, I know, it's funny. But probably the way most development people end up in development, which is randomly. You just randomly end up in it.
Sounds about right.
Seriously. So I worked for the state of Washington for a long time. I was a florist. I worked with Dana at the Davenport.
Okay.
I
heard that
during
story.
That time, right? I
By
worked
the
in
way,
TV.
you all had amazing flowers back in the
Back
day.
in the day, right?
Yes.
I know.
Not so much now.
Not so much now, but back in the day, we had a good time. We made some beautiful stuff. It was a good time to be at the Davenport. So I worked for the state for a long time. I had a friend who worked in human studies, research, and that's what I was interested in college. Right? I was a psych major. I was all about how the brain works. I worked in 2 labs with 2 professors. As an undergrad, and I even got published with one of them on a research study that we had run.
Awesome.
I know, right? It's kind of cool.
We're here with someone famous, everybody.
I mean, only if you read like psychological journals.
That's not a psychological thriller. Oh, okay.
It's like a
okay.
kappa opioid study on it. Anyway, it was a long time ago. So that's always been a passion of mine, like learning how the brain works and the chemistry behind it and all that kind of stuff. So I always thought, I'm gonna be in research. Well, life, how life works.
Twists and turns.
Twists and turns. So I moved back to Seattle. Was getting ready to get all into research. Didn't work out because I got engaged and my fiance moved to Spokane. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do in Spokane?
What's
There's
happening?
No research. There's no research in Spokane. So part time, just kind of, I had to get into the temp job market, in order to find jobs. And
connecting to
Right.
the...
So it was a depressing time. Anyway, long story short, ended up at the state for a long time. Didn't love it. Ran into somebody who was doing human research, was trying to get into that because that sounded intriguing, at least somewhat something along the lines of what I wanted to do with my life. That job totally dissolved. Like once I left the state, I gave my 2 weeks notice. I left. And she calls me and she goes, "Can you get your old job back?" And I said,
Oh, no.
I said, "No, it's like going back to prison. Seriously. Like it was like
Yeah,
going
you've
back to
already
prison.
made that
Right.
mental
I
shift.
will not go back."
Yeah.
Even the old district manager that I worked with, he was like, "You can come back." I'm like, "I'm not coming back.
I cannot
I
do
will
it."
take time to find something else." And so
What a phone call.
right?
That's like
It's
when
like
just
I was
everything falls out.
yeah, totally. I remember it too. I was driving home. I was all excited because I just had champagne with my girlfriends, to celebrate me leaving. And then I get that call on the way home. I'm like, seriously. Anyway, it all works out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I took the time off to figure out what I want to do with myself and, heal from some trauma I experienced at the state. And a friend of mine was volunteering at Communities and Schools on their fundraising committee, and we were out to dinner one night, and she goes, well, are you interested in volunteering? I said, sure. I don't have anything else to do. Great time to, try other things and meet other people.
Yep.
So I started volunteering on their fundraising committee, and that was at Coins and Clovers, which was in 2018 in March at Northern Quest. So I don't know if that's
That might have been the one I was there.
Were there like Irish dancers there?
Yeah, there was.
Okay, so yeah, we brought in Irish dancers. We had
that was fun night, by the way.
Right, it was right around St. Patrick's Day, and we had like the Scottish band come through, like with their kilts and everything on.
That was awesome.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like it was also it's during March Madness, and I remember while we have the dancers dancing and the Scottish pipers piping and stuff, everyone was glued to the TV to watch the game.
I remember in fact, it was phones at our table. I remember a couple of the folks.
I know.
And
and I'm
come
like,
on.
I'm looking
Look
around
what's
the
going
room,
on. This
and I
is
was like,
magic.
I know. I was like, what is going on? Anyway, so lesson
So
learned.
no more events during
in
March
Madness. No,
Yeah.
I learned my lesson there.
Smart.
But we still, I remember I was working on the baskets, and they were made up by some volunteers, and I looked at them and I was like, these are terrible. And I spent like a whole day undoing all the baskets and redoing them. And
there was one that was pretty awesome because I bid on it and got it.
Oh, yeah?
It was
What
custom
was
made
it?
fishing lures and a
Oh,
trip
yeah.
down the Spokane River right below us here at the Spokane Library.
yeah.
And it was amazing.
Yeah,
So, we could do that one again.
Yeah.
I'll come. I'll
okay.
bid.
Well, then come because we need more fishermen at our events. My husband's a fisherman, and we'll get into that later. So I redid all the baskets, and we had all this other entertainment going on, and we raised more money at that event than we had before. And it was kind of fun. So
I bet it felt good to be a part of that.
yeah, for sure, right? I love always, meeting and or exceeding goals. Really exceeding goals is fun. And so
Agreed.
I know, right? Meeting goals is like, yeah. Right. So yeah, we made more money that night. So I continued working with her on our next event, which was the Northern Quest Golf Tournament. And then she ended up she was already a retiree from Boeing, and she had another side business going on, and it was just too much stress for her. So she had to choose one, and she chose her side business, which is, she's boarding horses and doing horseback riding lessons. I mean, that's totally different.
Yeah.
And it was all at her home also. So she chose that, which then left that role vacant, and she recommended me for the job. And Chuck, seeing the work that I had done, and my commitment to it and always showing up, because you can't rely on volunteers, right? Apparently, but I showed up. I still did all the things I said I was going to do, and so he hired me based off of that. So that's how I ended up in development.
Effective, committed, responsible. Yes,
I know. Yeah. So that's how I ended up in development. That's random.
I love it.
Yeah. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. It's been the most fun job I've ever had. Like, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy going. It works for my brain. I'm a very strategic thinker, and so so I just have a lot of fun with it. It's like making all those connections and connecting the dots and seeing the big picture and working towards all that. It's fun.
Yeah, this work in the nonprofit world and, in social enterprises, you're helping people. I didn't understand the allure until I got into it. I'm like, oh, whoa, we can do big things.
Yeah. Right.
And it's intoxicating for me. It's like I want to just keep being a part of that and being part of the big conversations and helping people. And yeah, that's why I love this work. Yeah. It's incredible.
I never thought of nonprofits as a job opportunity.
Neither did I. It wasn't even on my radar.
It totally wasn't. No, I don't know why. I think it's because and this is something that we have to change the narrative. Everyone still sees it as like, oh, you get people to volunteer to do good.
Yep, lie.
Right, right. And even funders still think that way. Like, they don't want to give money to support the organization or operational costs. They want to just give money to buy food or to buy this, that, or the other, which is great. But we actually have employees that deliver those goods.
Yep.
And they need to be paid a living wage.
Yeah, to effectively change,
Right.
these systems or these whatever your mission is as an organization, yeah, it takes dollars and humans.
Yeah, it takes human power, and those humans need to live, need to be able to live and thrive even, especially because they're making all these connections with kids. And you have to have a stable person in that position for a long time in order to build that trust between students and even the school administration and teachers. You know, they are very protective of their students as well, and they don't want to just hand them over if you've got a revolving door of people coming through. Like, you can't trust someone to really care for all the needs of a student and really know what's going on with them intimately and their families if they are constantly changing.
We're in a similar space that way in our employment of, people living with a disability. That's our focus at Skillskin.
Mm-hmm.
And on our federal contracts, if our management's changing all the time, the friends, the family of our employees, they want to know why.
Right.
Yeah, it's concerning.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we can help, pay a living wage and something people can be proud of and live, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. So changing those conversations with funders. And I know if once they really understood it, they'd be on board, but they still have that old mindset too. Like, oh, you should be using volunteers for this. Well, you can't rely on volunteers.
Right.
That old model of a woman that worked at home and is now just giving her time to support a nonprofit or a charity, those days are gone.
Yeah, it's anniquated.
Right.
It's over.
Right.
Like we live in a society of
people to do
two
work.
income households. Yeah, like no one has any time.
Right.
Barely have time to breathe or talk to each other.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I
Just
think
schedule
that's
that time.
Right. That's an incredible point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we cannot rely on volunteers to like move the needle.
Right. Volunteers are tired too.
Yes,
And they are already working. So, yeah.
Well, you heard it here, people. Yeah. Pay.
Right? I mean, people are actually paying volunteers now. I mean, I don't know if that means volunteers anymore.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because they need the people to do that work, and they can't rely on the volunteer base anymore. I mean, we can barely get people to come to work anymore, so you're really not going to get volunteers.
I know that's just been so wild the last couple of years
Yeah.
to just see the workforce kind of, not be there.
Yeah. Yeah, they really have vanished. Seriously, where are they?
Yep. No one has that answer. If we
Right?
did, we'd be on a different podcast.
Start a new
Sorry, good
nonprofit.
gabbers. Yeah.
It's a new nonprofit.
Yeah, exactly.
Find the people.
Find the people. We'll learn it right here in Spokane. Indeed.
Add it to our 2,400 other nonprofits in this town.
Okay, so you've been in Spokane, for over 20 years now, and you've seen this place change,
Yep.
and now you're in the nonprofit space. You've worked for the state. Any insight that you have about this city, how it's changed over time, or anything that you want to highlight that you really like? What's happening? You would encourage the city to kind of keep going in that direction?
Yeah, I think it's been changing for the better. I mean, thank God that, oh gosh, who's the Davenport guy? What's his name? Walt Worthy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Walt, if you're out there. So yeah, Walt Worthy, I think, was really instrumental in turning downtown around. What I loved about Seattle was downtown.
Yeah.
I lived within, I could walk to it. And so I spent a lot of time downtown as a kid growing up. And that was really important to me. A vibrant downtown was just really, for me, really exciting, invigorating. And when I moved here, it was dead. It was dead. There was no good food. There was nothing going on after 5. There was no coffee shop open. Like, there were hardly any Starbucks here. I think there were like 1 or 2. Everything closed at 5.
You're describing my childhood.
Right?
Yeah.
I know. Sorry, dude. Everyone's like, oh, it's so great to grow up in Spokane. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What did you do? Anyway.
Trouble. That's what we did.
Right? Trouble. I know. And I was like on the bus and all over Seattle as a child, like by myself. It was fun. But so revitalizing the downtown and really getting that, like spreading that energy, and our food scene has really improved, which is awesome. We even then, or in the early 2000s, we had a good wine scene going on. It was just slowly growing. And I think I was a member at all the wine clubs, and I became an expert in my early 20s on wine, which was fun. So the wine and then the beer scene came on, and the coffee scene, all things that I love. So, and then just good food, like attracting more and more entrepreneurs and people that were opening new restaurants and different stuff. So that was really exciting. Now our art scene's coming up, which is cool.
I know, it's awesome.
Right. So I really feel like we've got a good energy and good growth. Here's my beef. It's not a walkable city unless you live in Kendall Yards or maybe or the South Hill.
Yeah.
But if you live on the north side, which is a huge portion of Spokane, I know people don't like to think north of the river, but they do exist, and we do want better.
Yep.
So not all the streets have sidewalks. Our major thoroughfares, there's no trees planted. There's nothing desirable to look at while you're walking from your home to a resource. If you want to go to the grocery store or just wherever you want to go to a local restaurant, something, it's just not pleasant to walk. And I walked a lot growing up. That's how I got around Seattle. And so I really miss that, not being able to just leave my house and go for a really pleasant walk, even if it's just to look around or to get to a destination. It's like this is a really hot place.
Right.
It's really hot in the summer.
It would be nice to have some shade.
It'd be nice to have some shade. And the parks here, sometimes I'm like, why is this even a park? I mean, who do you expect to come here? And there's no trees. It's just open field. It's too hot for that. But we are getting better parks, so I'm going to lay off the parks department. Downtown, what they've done to Riverfront Park is awesome.
But I appreciate that, right? It's like, when we have other perspectives on things and just the idea of like walkability on the north side, that's important to say.
Right.
And it's something that, our city and our community, we can aspire to.
Yeah.
Like we can make more, Garland districts and
Yeah.
the revamping of Monroe. I know that's a controversial issue, but you know what? It looks nice.
Right.
And those trees are going to grow up.
They will grow up.
Yes, and we can do that in other areas like that, those little neighborhood hubs.
Well, especially Northeast, right? Anyway, so, I would say...
We got to get that freeway done, and so that way some investment can come in. Everyone's just kind of waiting.
Yeah.
And
it's happening.
Yes.
I do, and I've used parts of it, which is cool. But, it needs to get done. I'd say Monroe, that everyone... build up. Like, why are we
density?
Scared right. Why are we scared to build up? Why do we keep wanting to sprawl out? I don't know. I mean, we already have a traffic problem, and we don't have the infrastructure to support, the growth that we've seen. So why are we spreading out more? Just build up.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And Monroe is like a perfect place to do that. I don't know what the...
Yeah, can you imagine? I can see it right in my
Right?
mind.
I can too.
I lived in Seattle for about 6 years. I lived in Georgetown,
yeah.
downtown there, and it was cool to see what density looks like and to experience that.
Yeah. So grow up.
I love it.
Grow up, Spokane.
You heard it here. Yeah. Well, Deborah, we just appreciate your time with us.
Thanks.
And I just want to thank you for joining us today. And yeah.
Thanks for having me and let me say crazy things.
Heck yeah, right back at you. Cool. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. You can edit that out.
Both.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, New Year's. We're safe. We're safe.